Welcome back to How to Genealogy. I'm Justin Cassio. This is Dory. In the first 6 videos, I show you how to get started in a real hands-on way with your own family genealogy, beginning with what you already know and what else that you can find out for free without too much trouble on the internet. How to build a family tree using different kinds of evidence to learn about the people in your family, what evidence can be trusted, the kinds of questions that a resource can answer, how to tell the story, and how to show other researchers where you found evidence for your claims. All of that is covered in the first videos. Using just those 6 videos, you could do genealogy for months or years even. There's so much out there on the internet ready for you to discover, and you could just keep adding to your list of open issues for, like I said, a very long time. And just using free resources, you could never stop, in fact, learning about your family if that's what you wanted to do. Genealogical research is done using a cyclical process. You ask a question and then you answer it. But it almost never stops there. I find out the names of my grandmother's parents, okay? And then I want to know more about their lives and who their parents were. And so I can keep growing my family tree. But all of that curiosity, it takes me in a lot of multiple different directions. Into the census to see what their family looked like, looking for their siblings, the married children from the family after they move out, and then looking for migration records and death records to find out the names of my grandmother's parents' parents. And then once I find those, there will be more questions, some of them that I can't predict. And each of those I wonders turns into a question that goes off in its own direction, and it starts one of those cycles of answering questions and generating new ones. That's the iterative part. So it's multi-cyclic, it's iterative, it's also nonlinear. So you might recall a story or an event, or somebody might approach you with a new story about your family, or you might find a document in one of your searches that raises new questions. So you go back to the beginning with each one of those. You evaluate the claims, the primacy of the sources that are involved. You try to prove or disprove the claims. And maybe that affects how you rate this source for accuracy, reliability, which also affects what other records that you're now most interested in finding. And at every step in the process, new questions are going to come up, and you're going to write them down, and then you come to the end of a cycle of answering a question and updating the biographies to reflect what you found. And you'll come back to this list of open issues to see what question you might want to answer next. So some of your questions are designed to extend the family tree back in time, like who are my grandmother's parents and who are her parents' parents. So if any of your ancestors were immigrants to the United States, that line of questioning is going to eventually take you out of the country, making the trip backwards, as it were, to where your family lived before they came to the U.S. I've shown you a handful of websites in this series so far that you can use to get to records and resources, but there's more. There are more out there, and which ones you want to use is going to depend on what exactly it is that you're looking for. For instance, some resources are useful to a particular region. The Illinois Digital Newspaper Collections is one that I was using recently that turned out to be a very good resource, not just for Illinois news, but for surrounding states. Or Fulton History is another good resource. It's mostly an upstate New York newspaper repository, but I've also found news there from Massachusetts. Don't assume that because you did one search on one website that you've seen all there is to see online. There are lots of different places to look. What genealogists call the brick walls in research are the pieces of information that they can't seem to find, and they stop one of those cycles of question and answer. You saw in video 5 that eventually I had to write to the city of New York for my grandparents' marriage record because I just couldn't find it anywhere online, even though the data that I was searching should have included that marriage. And then between that request, which was a few years ago, and when I made the video recently, Reclaim the Records brought a successful lawsuit, and the result of which appears to be the city putting up the Doris website that I showed you, where it turned out to be a very good idea to look for a record that I already actually had in my possession, because it turned out that there was another page to that record that I had never seen. There are lots of different strategies for making do without a particular document or piece of information, ways to go around or over or through that brick wall. None of us has the 1890 census, for instance, but we manage to trace families between 1880 and 1900 anyway. Sometimes you just can't find a vital record that'll tell you the names of a subject's parents, and so instead you have to look for one of those records for the subject's brother or sister, and then you make a case that this proves the relationship. Every topic that I've talked about already, I could take a deeper dive. For instance, I could do a video just on brick wall strategies, or fact-checking family stories, choosing applications to save and present your work like Wikitree or GenoPro, local and regional history that applies to your research, values and common practices of our ancestors, finding and reading Italian records online, writing a compelling biography, how to answer questions about background or how to get historical context, using maps in your research, and finding Mafia connections are all topics that I could devote time to in their very own videos. And I have a list of topics that I'm considering producing next. In my recent video about why I do what I do, I covered some of the philosophical reasons for why to do genealogy, to better understand your own life by knowing how your family lived in the past and what happened to them, to feel a sense of connection to other people, the world, and to human history, and also to give history a more urgent personal feel, a context, by knowing how your own people were a part of it. Because at the end of the day, this is a story about you, how you got here, and where you are in the world. This video series is about the how of genealogy, but sometimes we need to dip back into the why to remind ourselves what our research priorities are. The list of questions that come up and how they break out, where you expect to look first for the answers, that can get kind of big and bushy. Honing and shaping that list of questions into a set of prioritized research goals will keep you focused on what you want to learn and not just on what is possible to find out. Your time is limited, so use it to work on what's important to you. For instance, many people are trying to trace their lineage, in which case getting back another generation is always a high priority research goal. Questions like who are my grandmother's parents will always rise to the top, and I'm not likely to get into who my third cousin once removed second husband is. But for some research goals, that might actually make sense to research. For instance, if you're looking for your Mafia connections, as some of my subscribers are doing, you'll identify the most likely places where your family and the Mafia would intersect, and focus there, building out those people's networks, until you run into a known associate of the Mafia. My plan is to make most of these video titles that I'm suggesting exclusively for my Patreon subscribers. The first 6 videos in the series will get you started, and if you want to go further, I welcome you to join me on Patreon. I share Mafia history profiles and videos with patrons at the member tier, starting at $3 a month, and that explains my process, and I take you deeper into the stories. Each month, for instance, the post on the Mafia Genealogy blog at WordPress has a companion piece on Patreon that examines the research more closely. And so that's an opportunity for you to see how I work and to follow along. If you're Italian American, a family genealogist, have stories from your family that you'd like to know more about, or are more interested in the Mafia history or true crime, I have so much to show you. Stories that will change how you see the Mafia and our Italian American ancestors, and maybe even yourself. Professional grade knowledge of the most powerful tools that will help you answer questions about your own family or somebody else's, and the chance to ask me your questions and get advice that will smash your brick walls and deepen your practice. To join Mafia Genealogy and get access to exclusive content, tools for conducting research, and behind-the-scenes updates, join me, Justin Cassio, on Patreon at patreon.com/Mafia Genealogy.